Well, good evening, everyone, and welcome on behalf of the Physical and Mental Health Committee of Delta Sigma Theta Sorority Incorporated Greater Cleveland Alumni Chapter. We bring you greetings. My name is Kalia Fisher-Grace. I'm the chair of our Physical and Mental Health Committee. We at the Greater Cleveland Alumni Chapter of Delta Sigma Theta, we are a part of our national sorority, and we have what we call a 5-point thrust. Physical and mental health is a part of that 5-point thrust. One of the things that we are focused on is not only ensuring that the community understands ways that they can improve their physical and mental health, but also for our sorors, we are challenging ourselves to improve our physical health, improve our mental health as we work to serve the community. So we do have nationally for members of Delta Sigma Theta, Greater Cleveland Alumni Chapter, a Delta Care Challenge. This initiative, this program is a part of that Delta Care Challenge. So for those that are members of the sorority, you have access to your Delta Care Challenge form inside of Impact Wednesday. You can download the form and get points for attending today's webinar. We are also proud to be one of the first African-American women's sororities partnered with WW, formerly known as Weight Watchers. And so with that, members of Delta Sigma Theta get discounts to WW if they are if they join WW, and get the benefits and additional exclusive benefits for members of the sorority that join WW. So please take time to consider signing up for WW. Also, thank you for joining this webinar, and for those that are members of the sorority, take time to fill out the Delta Care Challenge. Members of the community, we welcome you. You are welcome to continue to follow along with us, follow many of our programs that we've had in the past through YouTube on Greater Cleveland, which is Greater Cleveland Alumni Chapter Deltas. We also have an Eventbrite site, so if you subscribe to our Eventbrite site or follow it, you can find out the activities that we will host throughout the year as they come about. So without further ado, I want to take a moment to introduce our speaker for the evening, Latanya Ford. She is a senior nurse practitioner in comprehensive weight management at University Hospitals of Cleveland. Here she treats patients with overweight and obesity. She earned her bachelor's degree and master's of science degrees from Ursuline College. She is also pursuing a doctorate of nursing practice from Kent State University. She holds multiple national certifications, including adult gerontology, primary care nurse practitioner, and a certified bariatric nurse with the American Society of Metabolic and Bariatric Surgery. And she has a certification in the Commission on Dietetic Registry. In addition to her practice, she serves as a member of the Advocacy Committee with the Obesity Medicine Association, the largest professional organization for obesity. She is also a member of the Black Nurses Society of Cleveland, where she volunteers in the community. She's also a friend of mine and a colleague, so I am pleased to have her. There are a number of people that are here waiting to see her and waiting to learn more about all that she does. And so with that, I'm going to turn it over to you, Latanya, and again, we welcome you.
Thank you so much, Kalia. That was so nice. Let me go ahead and share my screen here, and we will get started on today's presentation. Can everyone see my screen and hear?
I think your screen is getting ready to show. There you go.
All right. Thank you so much. Yes, I'm Latanya Ford, certified adult gerontology nurse practitioner. I am a senior nurse practitioner at University Hospitals of Cleveland in a comprehensive weight management department. I've been there for about 6 years now, and I've been a nurse practitioner for about 6 years, and a registered nurse about 15 years now. And today's presentation, we will discuss weighing your options, a conversation about weight management. I have nothing to disclose or any conflicts of interest. So what is overweight and obesity? Let me see if I can minimize this here. Okay. The definition of obesity. Obesity is defined as a chronic, relapsing, multifactorial neurobehavioral disease wherein an increase in body fat promotes adipose tissue, dysfunction, and abnormal fat mass, physical forces resulting in adverse metabolic, biomechanical, and psychosocial health consequences. And this is a definition provided by the Obesity Medicine Association. And so what does this really mean? Well, it means that obesity and weight or excess weight essentially is saying that it's not your fault. There are a variety of metabolic and hormonal imbalances that are going on within the body, which either prevent weight loss or cause you to regain weight. And so weight loss and maintenance becomes hard and complicated. And so hopefully within this presentation, you'll find out what some of the best exercise and nutrition strategies are, and to even intensify those efforts with maybe even medications or weight loss surgery. Obesity are multifactorial. There is this balance between intake and output or nutrition and exercise. There's genetic associations with obesity. So if you come from a family that deals with overweight and obesity, you're more susceptible. There's prescription medications that can promote obesity and overweight. We know mostly of steroids and maybe even some birth control that can cause some excess weight. There are some psychosocial and additional biologies that cause us to gain weight. And then just hormonal balances throughout our body. And so what is BMI or body mass index? Well, BMI determines our severity of obesity. It is a measure of a person's weight in relation to their height. The CDC has a BMI calculator online if you want to see what your exact BMI is, but here is the classification in the chart to the right. And so overweight starts with a BMI greater than 25. And then now we class obesity or rank obesity according to class. So obesity class 1 between 30 and 34.9, obesity class 2, 35 to 39, and then obesity class 3, greater than 40. So as you can see, we're getting away from the whole morbid obesity classifications and starting to rank obesity per class. And so what are the treatment options? Well, the foundation is physical activity and nutrition. And so as we look at specific diets, they can be categorized by low calorie, which is anywhere from 12 to 1800 kilocalories. Free diets, which are less than 800 kilocalories per day. Fat restricted diets, which are about 10 to 30% of total calories from fat. Low carb diets, which are 50 to 150 grams of carbohydrates per day, or very low carbohydrate diets, less than 50 grams of carbohydrates per day. Looking at some of the probably most popular diets that I hear patients speak of today, the ketogenic diet, which is anywhere from 20 to 50 grams of carbs per day. It discourages highly processed foods and high glycemic foods with the goal of entering into ketosis, which is when your body burns fat for fuel as opposed to glucose. And to prevent weight regain, you must essentially stay under 90 grams of carbs per day. Some people lose weight, some may not. And some of the side effects or adverse effects associated with the diet could be fatigue, or brain fog as your body is trying to flip into ketosis. And at this point, we don't have any long-term data to support the safety and efficacy of a ketogenic diet long-term. The Mediterranean diet, or not really a diet, is really a meal sort of pattern in which you eat primarily healthy fats like olive oil, whole grains, and you try to avoid red meats and processed carbs. It really builds upon a foundation of fruits and vegetables, and then healthy fats. The DASH diet, primarily vegetables, fruits, and whole grains, focusing primarily on a lower sodium or salt intake of about 2,300 milligrams or less than that per day. And then vegetarian type diets obviously discourage meats, focusing mostly on vegetables, fruits, whole grains, beans, seeds, and nuts. And then fasting, which could be done in a variety of ways, alternate day fasting, intermittent fasting, or what they consider time restricted eating patterns in which you only eat in a window of sort of eating opportunity. Fasting is not necessarily new. There are certain religious groups that have followed fasting for years, but the whole point is primarily to reduce calorie intake. It may help in fitting into someone's busy schedule, but again, weight loss is questionable. There could be some side effects of fatigue or low blood sugars, referred to that as hypoglycemia, and is not really recommended for people with eating disorders like bulimia. And then in terms of commercial weight loss plans, when considering which plan to pick, you want to look at, does it promote gradual weight loss? Does it teach you how to make permanent lifestyle changes? Does it encourage exercise? Does it exclude major food groups? Does it make certain foods illegal, bad, or just off limits? And does not make unbelievable weight loss claims? And so the question is, well, which diet is best? Well, I always say that whichever diet you are willing to stick with. And I try to get away from the whole term diet and really look at it as a nutritional plan. And so again, you want to avoid anything that is fad. Things like cabbage soup diet, the lemonade diet. Those are fad diets, they come and go. When research was done looking at the various diets that I discussed, the Mediterranean diet, low carb diets, low fat diets, most plans produce some form of weight loss. It just depends on the person's consistency in terms of sticking with the actual plan. And so the whole point is to choose a eating plan that's lifelong. It's going to be very difficult to stick with a cabbage soup diet for the rest of your life. You certainly could lose weight with it because you ultimately end up cutting calories, but again, it's going to be very difficult to stick with lifelong. And so you want to choose something that's balanced in macronutrients such as proteins, fats, and carbs. You want to consider holidays, social events, and gatherings. It's going to look very weird to come with a bowl of cabbage soup at a birthday party. So that's just not really reasonable. It's not something that you can stick with long term. And then I always say, use common sense. The body likes balance, and there's a reason why all of these basic foods are here for us. And so it's important to make sure you get in good balance. Quality versus quantity. So a lot of patients I talk to during the medical visits and appointments, they say, well, Tanya, I don't eat a lot of food. I don't understand why I'm not losing weight, or I only eat one meal a day. Well, there's a difference between quality and quantity. As you can see in this picture up here, the difference between 400 calories of oil, 400 calories of fried chicken, and 400 calories of vegetables. That's the difference between quantity and quality. No one will argue that a diet full of fruits and vegetables and whole grains, even if it is the same calorie amount, is not better in quality. So keep that in mind when you are trying to figure out why you may be struggling with your weight. Again, in this picture over here, quality versus quantity. This meal over here basically is full of what I call beige foods, fried chicken and bread and sugars, and unhealthy fats. Compared to this meal over here, we got some healthy greens, maybe some grains, and some fruits. It's much more colorful. Same calorie amount, you would even argue, well, I'm actually eating less food over here. But this is better quality over here. And then again, in this picture up here, same amount of calories. This is obviously less food in terms of quantity, but in the picture down here, it is actually more food in terms of quantity, but it's actually better quality. Physical activity versus exercise. So non-exercise activity thermogenesis is the sort of metabolic benefit you get after any physical activity. And then included in that is the things that we do for transportation in terms of walking and things that you would get from your occupation. Okay, that is just part of your physical activity. But the American College of Exercise Physiologists recommend, in terms of aerobic activity, you need at least 150 minutes per week for modest weight loss and to prevent weight gain, and then at least 300 minutes per week, which really averages out to about an hour a day, 5 days a week, for even more weight loss and to prevent weight regain. And so I just really want to make that distinction there and helping people understand why they may not be seeing benefits from what they perceive to be exercise. Well, it could be because the amount of exercise you're actually doing. Now, exercise is obviously great. There's many more benefits to exercise and physical activity beyond just weight loss. But if depends on what your goals are, and if you're seeking to actually lose weight, then you really need to be at about 300 minutes of exercise per week. And aerobic is, just as the name implies, is essentially cardio. So running, biking, step aerobics, those sorts of things. And then anaerobic or resistance training, they are recommending about 2 to 3 days per week of that. And again, consistency is key with exercise. So start a program that you can likely continue. So if boot camp exercise is not something you can do beyond a few weeks, it may not be something you consider doing long term. Find something you enjoy, and it could be simply, playing basketball, with your kids on the weekends. And something is better than nothing. So if you can't reach the 300 minutes of exercise a week or 150 minutes of exercise a week, like I tell my patients, exercise or physical activity is relative. It depends on where you start, what your current physical activity is. And just doing something above and beyond what you would normally do is actually better than nothing. Avoid prolonged periods of inactivity. So if you work a job where you are, for the most part, at a desk. Make a point to actually get up, move around, and be more physically active. And even consider a fitness tracker to help motivate you. As a matter of fact, I received a Fitbit challenge that I need to accept for this week, because it does motivate me to actually get in more steps. Now, I will say I don't actually win every week, but it's at least a challenge and a motivation for me to at least try to get those 10,000 steps in a day. All right, so overweight and obesity treatment options. We'll start with anti-obesity medications. And so let's talk a little bit about the history of obesity medications. So in 1959, we saw the emergence of the diethylpropion for weight loss. Then in 1973, we saw phentermine, also known as Adipex P. 1999, Xenical and Ally, which is over the counter, actually was FDA approved. 2012, Belviq and Qsymia were FDA approved for long-term weight management. And then 2014, the first injectable for weight management was FDA approved, known as Saxenda. And then more pills were approved, known as Contrave. And then actually this year, 2020, Belviq was withdrawn from the market for concerns with cancer. And so just to give you kind of a little bit more background about the history of anti-obesity medications, because the past is can be a little concerning. So DNP, which was introduced in 1933, but withdrawn in 1938 due to fatal hypothermia, which is an increase in body temperature. And then in the late 1930s, here comes the amphetamines, work by suppressing the appetite and increasing alertness. Here is where we started to see the combination of medications like with thyroid hormones, diuretics, and laxatives, but were banned in the 60s due to adverse health effects and death. And then in 1973, we have the fen-phen combination, which was phentermine and dexfenfluramine. But ultimately, the dexfenfluramine was withdrawn in 1997 due to valvular heart disease. We have Meridia, which worked as an appetite suppression, again withdrawn from the market due to heart attacks and strokes. And then ephedra was removed in 2004 due to an increase in blood pressure, which could lead to strokes and deaths. And so medication overview, well, who qualifies? Looking at that BMI chart, if you can remember from earlier, a BMI greater than 30 or a BMI greater than 27 with at least one weight-related medical condition such as high blood pressure, diabetes, or high cholesterol. Most work by decreasing the appetite, with an exception of Xenical or Ally, which actually alters the absorption of fat. The cost varies anywhere from $20 to $1,500 a month. And in order to be FDA approved, the medication had to show at least 5% weight loss. And so for the most part, the medications, you can expect 5% weight loss. So if you weigh 200 pounds, 10% would be 20 pounds, and then 5% would be about 10 pounds weight loss over about 12 weeks. At that point, we've considered the medication to be a success. So current medications used for the treatment of overweight and obesity would be phentermine, the phentermine pyramate or Qsymia combination, the bupropion naltrexone, also known as Contrave, liraglutide, also known as Saxenda, and then orlistat over-the-counter medication being Ally or Xenical. Okay, Ally or Xenocol works by inhibiting fat absorption, comes in 60 milligrams or 120 milligram tablets. Side effects being oily stools, oily diarrhea, and increased gas. But you can lower the adverse effects by just having a lower fat meal. This medication has been on the market since about 1999. And so you can actually buy this at any drugstore, CVS, or Walmart. The prescription dose is the Xenocol 120 milligrams. And then the over-the-counter dose is Ally, which is 60 milligrams. Then you have Qsymia, which is a combination drug of topiramate and phentermine, works by decreasing the appetite and food cravings, comes in 4 doses. Most common side effects being increased heart rate, blood pressure, heart palpitations, constipation, dry mouth, numbness and tingling in fingers and toes, and then maybe even some hair loss. It is contraindicated for those expecting to become pregnant or breastfeeding or have high thyroid function. And with that being said, women need to be on 2 forms of birth control because it can cause cleft lip palate in babies. Contrave, which is the bupropion and naltrexone combination, works by blocking the reward center in the brain and decreasing food cravings. But because of that, patients who take pain medication cannot take this medication. Comes in an 80/90 milligram dose, starting with 1 capsule a day, and you slowly titrate up over a week, or over 4 weeks, up to 2 capsules twice a day. Most common side effects being dizziness, insomnia, dry mouth, diarrhea, constipation, and actually a little nausea. And it is also avoided in women who are wanting to get pregnant. You have Saxenda, also known as liraglutide. It's an injectable, works by lowering the blood sugar, slowing gastric emptying, which helps decrease the appetite, improve feelings of fullness, and lowering calorie intake. Start at a low dose of 0.6 milligrams, and you take that dose every day for 1 week. And then you go up on the dose until you reach 3 milligrams at about week 5. It is an injection you would give every day in your belly or your thigh or your upper arm. Most common side effects being nausea, hypoglycemia or low blood sugars, diarrhea, constipation, vomiting, headache, heartburn, maybe some fatigue. Avoid if you have a personal or family history of thyroid cell tumors, pancreatitis, and acute gallbladder disease. And then medications used for short term, the most popular being Adipex P or phentermine. And then there's other variations of the medication, Lamarier, Regemix, Inuate, or Bontril. Here in Ohio, the medical board only allows for short-term use, which is interpreted as receiving 12 weeks worth of prescriptions or 3 months and then being off for a total of 6 months. Again, this was part of the combination drug fen-phen back in the 90s. The dexfenfluramine has been since discontinued due to the heart valve problems, but the phentermine is still being prescribed and is probably the most popular weight loss medication. It works by decreasing the appetite and smaller portions. Most common side effects being increased heart rate, blood pressure, heart palpitations, constipation, dry mouth, and difficulty sleeping. All right, so those were the anti-obesity medications in terms of non-surgical options. And so here are some other non-surgical options, but are not medications. To qualify for this, typically your BMI needs to be between 30 and 40, have no previous weight loss surgery or procedures to the stomach, not be on any blood thinners, And these procedures are done via EGD or scope, which is where they put a camera down your throat under light anesthesia. So the two procedures we have here are the intragastric balloon, which is the Orbera, and the Obalon. Okay, these are non-surgical options, as I stated. The Orbera being a 1 balloon system, the Obalon being a 3 balloon system. The Orbera is done via EGD. It's a saline balloon that's filled, a saline filled silicone balloon left in the stomach for about 6 months. Whereas the Obalon is actually a swallowable balloon where you will swallow up to 3 capsules. And then once you swallow the capsules, it's confirmed with an X-ray, and then the doctor goes in and actually inflates the balloon with a catheter. And both of these balloon systems essentially work by giving you that feeling of fullness in your stomach. Again, it's non-surgical. It's done on an outpatient basis. So there's no cutting or anything like that. So again, the balloons are left in the stomach for about 6 months and then removed. Typically, you follow like a low carb, lower calorie sort of eating plan. Some of the advantages being that it's a non-surgical option. You can expect anywhere from 25 to 35% weight loss, and it is reversible. Some of the disadvantages being that it is not covered by insurance, costing anywhere from $7,000 to $8,000 per procedure, depending on where you get it done. And then after the balloon is removed, there's a potential for weight regain. There's also a potential for balloon deflation, which means you may have to actually pay for another procedure. And it's not recommended for those who have had previous gastric surgeries, have rather large hiatal hernias, obviously pregnant, or have coagulation disorders or on blood thinners. The Aspire Assist is not necessarily a balloon option, but it is a non-surgical option. It's indicated for those with a BMI between 35 and 55. It is reversible. Typically, you keep this device in for about a year, and it reduces calorie absorption. And so essentially what happens is you eat as you would normally eat, but lower calorie, lower carb, lower fat sort of dietary counseling there. And then you have a tube that's connected to the inside of your stomach that you would essentially wait about 20 to 30 minutes, and you will open up this catheter and empty out your stomach contents. And you can, they say you can empty out up to 30% of your stomach contents. And it's recommended that you do what they call aspirate, or empty the little catheter about 2 to 3 times per day. All right, and then lastly, talking about bariatric surgery, these are actual surgical procedures, just to kind of give you a feel for what that really looks like there. So who qualifies for surgery? Anyone with a BMI greater than 40 or a BMI greater than 35 with a weight-related medical condition such as high blood pressure, diabetes, osteoarthritis, or sleep apnea, and have failed non-surgical attempts at weight loss. And so here's a sort of comparison of the 3 most popular procedures. So at the top here is the gastric bypass. Okay, here the stomach is divided into 2 pouches, and then the intestines are rearranged. Okay, this portion, I don't know if my pointer is working here. this portion of your stomach actually stays in your body. And then this little portion here is where you have your new stomach pouch, where your food goes into. It's about the size of a computer mouse. Okay. So some of the pros of the gastric bypass would be very good weight loss. It is reversible. It's a great procedure for those who deal with heartburn and diabetes, but some cons could be medication absorption. So if you require maybe medications for mental health, or maybe medications to say prevent transplant rejection, this procedure may not be the best for you. Or if you cannot permit or tolerate a longer operation time, this procedure can be upwards of an hour and a half or so under anesthesia, then the surgeon may not recommend that for you. Then the next procedure here is the sleeve gastrectomy, where about 80 to 90% of your stomach is permanently removed, okay? And so you have what they call a sleeve, looks like an arm sleeve on a jacket or so, and so food just enters this like long pouch here. It's about the size of a banana, and this part of your stomach is gone forever. So they take that and then they just discard it. And just to let you know, the average size stomach is about the size of a football. So the bypass, your new stomach is about the size of a computer mouse, but the sleeve, your stomach is about the size of a banana. So some pros here would be pretty good weight loss, actually very good depending on medication absorption. We don't really have too many concerns about medication absorption with the sleeve, and may recommend this for those where we would be concerned about that. A shorter procedure time, just you could be under anesthesia for about 30 to 45 minutes. Some cons are that it is non-reversible. So once they take this portion of your stomach out, that's it. You don't get that back anymore. And then heartburn, because you go from a fairly large stomach to a very narrow stomach, as you can see, it creates an even higher pressure sort of system. And so there's a lot of complaints about heartburn, so much so people may even go from the sleeve to the gastric bypass because of the heartburn. And then lastly, the lap band is a silicone band placed around the top portion of the stomach. It's connected to a port that sits under the skin. And then the band is adjusted by injecting saline solution into the port in the office. The pros are that this is reversible, so there's no actual cutting of your stomach. They just put this band around your stomach, and then you got the port that they access with a needle in the office. But the cons are that is a very, very high complication rate. The weight loss isn't so good. And there actually are only a few practices across the country who are actually still placing lap bands. This was very popular like in the 90s, but has for the most part not really been done across the country. And so what can you expect after weight loss surgery? Well, depending on which procedure you go with, you can expect to be in the hospital for about 2 to 3 days. Then you're discharged home with, for a lot of people, a lot of medication changes. So especially if you're diabetic, you may go home and your insulin be stopped or severely reduced. You could expect a diet that'll essentially transition you as your new stomach is healing. So it'll be liquids and then kind of like pureed or like baby food sort of consistency onto soft foods. You'll be having a little nausea as your stomach is like adjusting to its new sort of way of being here. And then after you're kind of back to normal, in about a week or two, you'll be having regular food, but it'll be very, very, very small portions. Most people report increased energy after about 3 weeks or so. And at about 3 to 4 weeks, you are essentially released back to work. I will say probably after the first month, you can really start to see a lot of weight loss. And then hopefully at that point, once you are on to regular foods and you're back to work, you have a new commitment to a new lifestyle and eating behaviors. And so in terms of comparing bariatric surgery to medications and to lifestyle, bariatric surgery and medications are all built upon the foundation of lifestyle adjustments with a reduced calorie meal plan, physical activity, as I discussed earlier, and some behavioral modification of self-monitoring, goal setting, and just really changing how you've been living up until that point. As I stated above, medications are indicated with those with a BMI greater than 27, with a weight-related medical condition, and 30 without. And then you consider bariatric surgery for those with a BMI greater than 35, with a weight-related medical condition, or 40 without. And this just kind of shows you, it's an old study, but it shows you what kind of weight loss you can expect when you combine lifestyle with pharmacotherapy or medications. So as you can see, just taking the medications alone, it does produce some weight loss, but there's even better weight loss when you take the medications and you combine them with those lifestyle modifications of nutrition and exercise and physical activity. And in terms of comparing the weight loss against lifestyle meds and procedures, weight loss on average, most people can expect about 5%, medications up to 15%, the intragastric balloon, which is a non-surgical option we discussed earlier, about 30%, lap band about 40%, the sleeve about 50%, and then the bypass on average about 70% weight loss. So really keep that in mind when you're trying to figure out which, option is going to be best for you. And so what are some benefits of weight loss? Well, a little goes a long way. So just 3% weight loss, you can expect a big improvement in your diabetes. 5% weight loss, again, like I said, for that person who weighs 200 pounds, 5% would be about 10 pounds weight loss. You can see an improvement in your triglycerides and your blood pressure, which means maybe even your blood pressure medications can be reduced. At 10%, you can see an improvement in sleep apnea. And then in 15%, you can see an improvement in cardiovascular events such as MIs and strokes. So let's talk about some things that do not cause fat loss. This is one of the things that I try to educate my patients on in the clinic. So detox teas and pills, although it may seem that you are losing weight, these just actually promote bowel movements. And so that does not necessarily cause fat loss. Vitamin B12. Vitamin B12 is a vitamin that helps with red blood cell production. A lot of women, especially African American women, have low blood counts and anemias. And so there's a perception that you are losing weight from vitamin B12, when actually you're likely correcting your anemia and your blood counts. diuretics or water pills. Just pulls water off of the body, so it can be excreted via urine. Again, that is not weight loss per se, nor fat loss. Apple cider vinegar, there's no research to support that this supplement causes fat loss. I have had patients tell me that it can actually curb their appetite, but again, there's no research. Any CBD product, again, there's no research to support that this causes fat loss. And then that acai berry is another supplement that has been promoted, but again, does not cause fat loss. Again, not to say these things don't work or have not worked for people, it's just in terms of research, there's no research to support any of these supplements. In terms of insurance coverage, this is something that I have personally been working with that national organization, as Kalia mentioned in the introduction. The Obesity Medicine Association has an advocacy group to promote better coverage for the treatment of overweight and obesity. But in terms of medications, none of the medications for weight loss are covered by Medicare or Medicaid. There may be some coverage by private health plans for the medications, and there's no health plan that covers the intragastric balloons or the Aspire device. But I didn't add this to the slide, but most health plans do cover bariatric surgery. So it just depends on your health plan and what your employer has opted in to. So in terms of options, well, which option is best for me? Well, first, you need to optimize your physical activity and your nutrition. So as I mentioned before, any exercise or physical activity is better than nothing. So you don't necessarily need to wait for anybody to tell you to start. Just start. Find something you like and just start doing it. In terms of nutrition, if your diet is full of processed foods, sugary foods, fatty foods, that's the first thing you want to sort of take a look at and really ask yourself, is my food high in quality? Okay, I may not be eating a lot of food, but is there some room for improvement? You want to get a medical evaluation, including a history and physical with your medical provider. Obesity is, and overweight for that matter, is a medical condition. And so your medical provider, your nurse practitioner, your physician assistant, hopefully you can find someone to help you so that you can determine which option is best for you. Consider weight loss goals versus expected weight loss. So if you want to lose 100 pounds, as I sort of discussed the different weight loss options, the average weight loss, say for medications, is anywhere from 5 to 15%. Well, medications may not be the best option for you. You may want to seriously consider weight loss surgery. Think about the quality of life you want to live as opposed to what you want to look like. So it is much more important that your medical conditions and your, your other medical problems are corrected, improved, or maybe even, go away altogether, as opposed to, what size clothes you're wearing. And consider cost and coverage. So as I mentioned, most medications are not covered by your health plan. Bariatric surgery, maybe, and then the non-surgical options like the intragastric balloon, no health plan is covering that. So you'll have to pay out of pocket or pursue some sort of crediting option. And then just looking at medications versus surgery. Medications offer low weight loss versus surgery, more weight loss. Medications, cost and coverage. Surgery, you have to consider the complications. Medications you can start now. Surgery is quite a process. And so that's something that you can or would have to start later. And so in conclusion, I just really want to sort of drive home this point here. We've heard over the years from especially the media that obesity and weight is something that people choose, and that if they would just eat less and exercise more, then they would do better. But obesity, as I stated in the beginning, is a chronic disease. It is quite complicated, and it's not a choice, and it is not your fault, okay? But with that being said, lifestyle modification of nutrition and physical activity is the foundation, okay? But there are safe and effective surgical and non-surgical options for the treatment of obesity and overweight. And with that being said, I will turn it over to Kalia for question and answer period.
Well, thank you, Latanya. We appreciate everything that you've just explained. Very thorough explanations and a great presentation. There are a number of questions in the chat. So I'm just going to start from the top. The first one says, going back to the diet aspect, there's many opinions when it comes to water intake. What are your thoughts when it comes to if people should drink 8 glasses of water or 64 ounces, half a person's body weight, and drinking a gallon a day? So really just, what are your recommendations around water intake?
For the most part, everybody should have at least 64 ounces of water per day, which is about 8-ounce glasses. Somebody heavier or with more body weight could certainly, they wouldn't necessarily do harm by having more water. Do you need a gallon of water per day? Not necessarily, unless you are experiencing some excess fluid loss. But on average, 64 ounces does most people quite well.
Thank you. And what advice would you give to someone who is always on the go in regards to developing a healthy nutritional plan?
Yeah, that's something I see with a lot of patients and a lot of just people I talk to in general. So being on the go, that can be, it can look different for everyone. So truck drivers or people who sort of like work out of their cars, people who work multiple jobs, or go home to school in the same sort of few hours or so. So it just depends on your access to facilities. So if you have the opportunity to actually put food in some sort of refrigerator somewhere, that would be ideal. It's getting colder outside. Really, you could leave the food in the car, okay, and it would do okay. A insulated lunch bag or a cooler, you could easily keep food in there as well. One of the things I would do for my son when he was a lot younger and he wanted to pack a lunch and maybe he wanted something that was warm, I would microwave it and then wrap it in foil. So it's not necessarily hot, but it wouldn't be, cold either. So it just kind of depends on, what you want. There are some healthy fast food options. Just be aware of what you are eating. Use good common sense when making those choices out there on the road. But yeah, you can actually pack and leave it in the car if that's an option for you.
Thank you. There's another question. It starts out by saying, I know for myself, some days I've had a hard time staying motivated to work out after a long day of work, etc. What motivates you on your tough days to stay the course, and what are some of your favorite workouts?
Oh, that's a good question because it's hard. Okay, it is very difficult. So I had to actually really just do a self-assessment and figure out what parts of the day do I function the best. And that is really in the mornings. I hardly ever work out after work. Between getting home and making dinner and before virtual learning, you know, doing homework and baths and showers, you know, that was like impossible for me to get some sort of exercise. And so I personally work out about 5:30 in the morning, every morning. And it was very difficult at first to do that. But after a while, I actually look forward to it. Now, it does require me to be in the bed very early. My kids make fun of me, you know, sometimes because it's like 9 o'clock, I'm asleep, you know. But between 5:30 and 6 o'clock in the morning, I'm either walking in the park. I do a lot of park walking at Euclid Creek, or I'm at the gym 5:30 between 5:30 and 6 o'clock in the morning. So, and I personally like to walk. I can't run because it hurts. So I just walk, and I have a playlist. I like to listen to YouTube or my favorite songs, audiobooks. Now that I'm back in school, maybe even some lectures. But I just making a point to do it every morning. Most mornings, I will say.
Thank you. Those are good suggestions. The next comment and question is, weight loss teas and shakes are extremely popular, but are they truly effective? I know you addressed this a little bit, but do you care to mention anything else about weight loss teas and shakes?
Yeah, there are some pretty popular ones, and they do have their place. They're very effective as meal replacements. I personally like to recommend them to patients who say struggle with maybe eating breakfast or can't quite find time to eat lunch, or maybe even use it to replace a high calorie dinner they may have. So as long as they're balanced, typically they're higher in protein. You want to watch the carb and the sugar intake in some of the shakes. So if you can get something less than 20 grams of carbs per serving in any of those shakes, I think they do have a place, like I said, in being a meal replacement. So, and it can kind of help encourage you to change some eating behaviors.
Okay. I know that many people volunteer doing a keto diet. However, I was informed that this diet should be taken with caution, as it can deprive the body and the brain specifically of what it needs. Are you able to speak to this?
Yeah, the keto diet, ketogenic, is very popular now, but is not really a new sort of eating plan. The ketogenic diet was really born out of the need to control seizures. Okay, because if you starved the brain of glucose, then the brain would start to use fat as fuel. I have a family member that has seizures, and this is how they control her seizures with the ketogenic diet. And so it wasn't really intended to be long-term, number one, and number two, for weight loss. It was just a side effect of it. And so with that being said, I don't necessarily endorse it, okay? But I do think there is a place for cutting carbohydrates, especially highly processed carbs, out of our diet and maybe replacing them with like whole grains and, you know, even fruit, you know. But yeah, ketogenic is very popular, and you have to really kind of tread lightly with that sort of way of eating.
And the next question is, I'm currently trying intermittent fasting and I work out quite frequently. My biggest problem is that I plateaued during weight loss, which is frustrating. What can I do to jumpstart weight loss?
So that's another sort of popular way of eating. A lot of people are trying intermittent fasting. How I counsel patients is you want to flip the intermittent fast around. So most people fast, meaning they'll have lunch and then will sort of fast overnight and skip breakfast. Where I say flip it around and have breakfast, lunch, and a very early dinner, maybe 4 o'clock, your last eating sort of meal, okay? That way you actually go to bed hungry and you wake up with an appetite, and you'll get that hormonal benefit overnight to help you actually lose weight. It could be that, it could be the timing of your particular intermittent fast, or again, it could be food. Are you having a fast food lunch or a fast food dinner? Again, it could be lower in quantity, but is it the best in terms of quality? Okay, so keep that in mind. Keep a food journal. So actually record what you're eating and drinking in some sort of, you can use an electronic food diary, or, you know, pen and paper, whatever you want to do. So you can kind of see if there are some patterns in which you're eating more calories than what you think you are getting in. So keeping a food journal, maybe flipping a fast around, and then looking at quality.
I think you got muted, Latanya. There you
Am
go.
I back?
Yes.
Oh, okay. Whew. I was like, what happened?
Okay. So
did you
I don't know
want
if you
me to
got,
share it, my screen or anything? 'Cause
go ahead. What'd you say? Do we need you to share your screen? Is that what you asked?
yeah, because I don't know, I just got kicked out, so I'm not sure where we're at, but
Oh, I don't think so. We can keep with the questions. I don't know if everybody heard you wrapping up the end when you were answering the question about fasting. You had mentioned flipping it around, and I don't know what the last piece you were saying. We might have lost you at that point.
oh, okay. I was recommending to that to the person who asked the question, actually flipping the fast around, keeping a food journal, and looking at the quality of food versus quantity. So what exactly are you breaking the fast with? Is it good quality foods?
Okay. And then the next question was, how would you recommend going about eating a more balanced breakfast. I have major issues with skipping out on it because of my busy day. I eat other balanced meals throughout the day, but I don't feel as healthy after skipping breakfast.
Yeah, the obesity community is kind of divided. Some healthcare providers say, do adults really need breakfast? It's something that we sort of kind of pushed our children to have, but as an adult, do you really need breakfast? I recommend a breakfast. I think people feel better when they have a good breakfast. And it can be something as small as one of those like little protein shakes or meal replacements. Somebody questioned earlier. Always like for it to be high in protein. So hard-boiled eggs. I personally like to have a yogurt, and maybe some blueberries in the morning, maybe some oatmeal, something like that. So high in protein and slow processing carbs, like I said, in oatmeal or a meal replacement.
Okay, this next question is about the Aspire Assist. It says the Aspire Assist seems to mimic bulimia. Is there any research to support that patients have reported eating disorders when the device is removed?
Yeah, I mean, that's actually one of our even concerns at a university hospital. If someone were seeking the Aspire Assist, we would likely have them evaluated by a mental health provider just to make sure there aren't any like underlying eating disorders that need to be addressed. So there is a mechanism on the actual device that prevents you from excessively clicking or aspirating the food. So you only get so many clicks or aspirations like counted on the actual device. And if you like maximize that or have sort of like total it out in a couple of weeks or months, then there's a problem there. So that's what we would do. We would probably send you to a mental health provider just to make sure everything was okay.
When it comes to the BMI chart, do you think it will ever be revisited for revision, as everyone has varying body types to where the BMI chart doesn't take those things into account?
Yeah, I personally would hope they would. The powers that be, I mean, because technically it was developed for insurance purposes. And so we know that there are a lot of, inconsistencies. It doesn't really take into muscle mass. Or once saw a post that compared the BMI of like LeBron James, and his BMI was like 28. Well, if you can find an ounce of fat on LeBron James, let me know. But so we know there are a lot of flaws and inaccuracies in the body mass index chart. But for now, in terms of communicating with the insurance plans, that's really all they would consider some other way to accurately measure that for people.
Two more comments.
I think I could be froze.
I can hear you. Can you hear me? Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you.
Okay. So there's two more comments. One is it just states it's saying hi to you. It's one of your BNS sisters. It talks about how they had taken phentermine and did lose weight, but was concerned about the side effects. They had heart palpitations along with pulsation in their ear, and it scared them. So they just commented that they started working for weight loss and stress relief, and used an app that they felt helped them a lot more. So I don't know if you want to make any more comments around phentermine and some of the side effects.
Okay, yeah, I got kicked out again, but can you hear and see me again?
I can hear you. I don't know if I can see you yet. I can hear you. Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you.
Okay, go ahead. You're back. So
Okay.
did you want to make comments
I didn't
around?
catch the question. I think it was about phentermine and side effects.
Yes. Yes, that was it.
That was it. Okay, the phentermine and the side effects. Well, I mean, I don't really have anything more, I guess, to add to what I stated earlier. I guess probably the most common side effect I hear from patients is the difficulty sleeping, like the first couple of weeks. That usually goes away and gets better, and then the constipation. So it's a drug, what we call anticholinergic, constipation in the dry mouth. So
there are side effects that everybody would need to be aware of, as mentioned before.
right.
Then the next comments are really a question about feeling bloated after taking or having smoothies that they made at home and wanting to know if they're doing something wrong. Anything you can offer about the feeling of bloating after making smoothies or drinking smoothies?
Okay, can you hear me okay?
Yes.
Okay. I think I caught what the question was. Somebody's experiencing some bloating after having smoothies.
Mm-hmm.
Typically, that is from the type of protein that's in the smoothie. Sometimes you just have some type of intolerance or allergy to it. So you should probably have that looked at by either a dietitian or your physician. It could be some type of intolerance or allergy. Okay, especially if it's milk based. It could be some sort of lactose intolerance. So
Good to know. Then the last question is about, it asks if people have their heat turned up and if there's any correlation between sleeping at hot or cold temperatures when it comes to weight loss.
So there is some research to support not necessarily sleeping in hot or cold temperatures, but when you are exposed to extremely cold temperatures, I don't know if anybody heard of the one author, Tim Ferriss. He has a self-experiment where he took like ice baths and noticed like weight loss, because the body's attempt to raise the temperature actually raises the metabolism. But it would really have to be like extreme cold, and it would have to be like consistency in order to like get a benefit.
Might have lost you again, but I think we heard the answer to the question, which was that it would have to be extreme temperatures to see a benefit. So
Correct.
those are all the questions that we have for this evening. How can people get in touch with you if they want to explore their options or weigh their options with any of the things you've discussed?
All right, I'm gonna try to share my screen here again.
Okay.
so we can, that's just saying thank you to the Physical and Mental Health Committee of the Delta Sigma Theta sorority for the opportunity, and thank you to Kalia for the invitation. There's my contact information there at the bottom at University Hospitals of Cleveland. There's my email there, latanya.4number2@uhhospitals.org. And I don't know if you can see here, there is a virtual walk and talk this Saturday from 10 to 10:30 between the Black Nurses Society and the Deltas, and I want to say maybe that's the AKAs, I'm not quite sure.
Yes.
And to register, you can visit that link right there at the bottom. And then this is just some resources for you. The Obesity Action Coalition is very patient-centered or layperson-centered in terms of information. If you want additional information, the CDC has a BMI calculator, and then the MyPlate on choosemyplate.gov has just basic nutritional information, which I thought may be helpful. All righty, and that is it for me. And so, yes, if you have questions, certainly feel free to reach out to me. Thank you guys so much. It was a pleasure speaking with you on this Monday afternoon. Everybody get out there and get some activity in, you know. Maybe I'll see you in the park, you know, walking, not 5:30 in the morning, it's dark at 5:30 in the morning.
Well, thank you, Latanya. We appreciate you being here and for all that you have shared. We look forward to partnering with you as a member of Black Nurse Society Cleveland on Saturday for the virtual walk and talk. It's focused on self-care and exercising our civic duty to vote. So to all of those that have joined in, we again thank you. You will get an email requesting you to complete an evaluation for today's webinar. We appreciate your feedback and you taking the time to do that. And so again, have a good night, and hopefully we'll see everybody soon virtually. Bye. Thank you.